we're going to play the 911 call from Amber Guyger. And so I want to warn some people if it might be of a sensitive nature, but we're going to react to it. PJ Dunn here has not heard this at all, and this will be the first time he will hear it. And Ashlei, if some of you don't know her, she's from time to time visits.
Probate in business.
Thank you very much. And so, we're glad to have you on and everything. And what we're going to do is listen to this live, everybody, and then we're going to react to it. Listen carefully.
Off duty officer. Can I need EMS? I'm in number.
Do you need police as well or just EMS?
Yes, I need both.
Okay, what's the address?
I'm at apartment number 1478. I'm in 1478.
And what's the address there?
It's 1210 South Lamar, 1478. Yes.
What's going on?
I'm an off-duty officer. I thought it was in my apartment, and I shot a guy thinking it was my apartment.
You shot someone?
Yes, I thought it was my apartment. I'm fucked. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Okay, and where are you at right now?
I'm in, what do you mean? I'm inside the apartment with him. Hey, come on.
What's your name?
I'm Amber Guyger. I need to get me, I'm in.
Okay, we have help on the way.
I know, but I'm gonna lose my dog. I thought it was my apartment.
Okay, and
Hey, man.
hold on.
Fuck.
Okay, stay with me, okay?
I need my new supervisor. Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Oh, fuck. I thought it was my apartment.
I understand. We have help on the way.
It was my apartment. Hurry, please.
They're on their way.
I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment. I could have sworn I parked on the third floor.
Okay, I understand.
No. I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment.
And then what's the gate code there?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I thought it was my apartment.
They're trying to get in there. We have an officer there. You don't know the gate code?
No. I thought it was my apartment.
Okay, and what floor are you in right now?
The fourth floor. Fourth. Hey, bud, they're coming, bud. I'm sorry, man.
Okay, where was he shot?
He's on the top left.
Okay, you're with Dallas PD, right?
Yes. Oh my God, I'm done. I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. Hey, bud.
They're trying to get there to you, okay?
I know. Stay with me, bud. Holy fuck.
Okay, they're almost there. They're already there. They're trying to get to you.
Holy fuck. I thought it was my apartment. Holy fuck. I thought it was my apartment. Oh my God. Fuck.
Okay, they're trying to get back here. Do you hear them? Do you see them?
No. No. How the fuck did I touch it? How did I do this for? I'm too tired. Honey. Over here.
Okay, go ahead and talk to them.
No, it's me. I'm off duty. I thought they were my apartment. I thought this was my floor.
Okay, that's very painful call from Amber Guyger after she had shot Botham Jean. And I will tell you that I have heard this before. And what I did do on one separate occasion was I tried to close my eyes and just listen to this and try to exclude everything else and just listen to the 911 call. But I'm particularly interested, and I'll give you some of my feedback on that, but I'm particularly interested in your feedback, PJ, since you just heard this for the very first time right now.
Well, as you were saying, I think it was very hard to listen to because, again, I have to try to remove everything that I think I already know about this just to listen to it, to try to match it, just to be fair. But I feel like at some points I really wished I could see a little bit more what was she talking about, like who was she saying hey bud to. I'm assuming that's to Botham that she was saying that to. And then I'm wondering the people that were also coming because they heard shots and they came out. I'm just wondering, I'm trying to visualize what was everyone doing in this so I can have some context. Here it sounds clearly she keeps repeating the same thing over. I thought I was at my apartment. So obviously she's going to be able to show that there's trauma there because she keeps repeating something that everyone else kind of can get. But there's still something about this still doesn't sound right yet, just the first time that I hear it. At some point it feels like, it sounds natural at first, but at some point it almost feels like, okay, not that it's rehearsed because it isn't, you don't rehearse these things, but at some point it does kind of seem like I know what my narrative needs to be and I kind of stick to it
So,
on some level.
PJ, having said that, and this is your first time hearing it,
Yes.
how does your opinion go one way or the other, knowing that 911 was not her first call, but to her union, the police association? That was her first call.
Yeah, that bothers me, and I think to that point what really bothered me was she said, I think it was very telling when she said, I'm going to lose my job. And there wasn't any, a man is hurt, a man's dead, a man's possibly, this poor man in his apartment. There was never any acknowledgement that something wrong has happened. It was just, the first thing she went to was, oh, I'm going to lose my job.
Okay, so I want to stop right there. So
Please.
you just said that her first call, are we sure about that? Her first call was to the police union.
Yes, she called her rep.
So the first call was to the rep and then to 911.
Yes.
Okay. And so how do we know this from police records or from her phone records or?
Well, it's secondhand knowledge to the media. That's where I learned this, so nothing definitive beyond that point. However, to me, after I heard the video, then heard that she had called a representative, it laid the pretext to me, I need to make this seem as much of an accident as possible. So hearing it for the second time, this was a mistake. I thought this was my apartment. Repeat. It felt like that was the stage, that was the coaching that could have been done. And I could hear groans and moans. She's saying, hold on, bud. You are an officer. You are trained to do some type of first response. What is she doing? Is the phone on speaker? Is she, applying pressure to the wound or wounds? There's so many questions that are going through my head that seems to get lost with how many times she says, I'm going to lose my job, or I thought this was my apartment.
Yeah. I think she said, I thought this was my apartment from my count 17 times.
Yeah.
17 times around that number in that 5-minute span. But I will tell you something now. If what you're saying, if that what's been out there, if that is true, that the first call was to the police union or rep or whatever it may be, then that clearly sort of viewing this, listening to this 911 call really does, that's enlightening, because, in one respect, the first thing you hear when the call starts is, oh, whatever, I'm here or whatever, and she seems very shocked, but very quickly you hear her talking about, it's the wrong department, I'm gonna lose my job, over and over and over again. Well, and think about it, if in fact we accidentally did something like this, I think it's a natural human response to be concerned about the person who's been hurt, but I also think that you would be thinking about your future as well at the same time.
That's
so
fair.
that's a natural.
Yes, but at what point does she mention the person that she shot other than, I shot this person and hold on, bud? It was so selfish to me. I'm gonna lose my job. It's, what should I do next? I have this wounded individual here. He was shot here, or multiple shots, or there was a lack of consideration for his life.
I agree with, so what I didn't hear in there is that I didn't hear, like, I don't know, it didn't sound like I hear first aid being performed on Botham. And all we have is just this audio, so we don't know what she was doing or not doing, but it just didn't sound like there was any first aid being performed from what I could hear.
And dissect it a little bit further, that 911 call was over 5 minutes long. That's over 5 minutes of what sounds like no first aid or emergency response was being given to this victim. And if you compound that with that 911 call was not her first call, how much time was lost before giving this man aid? And now he's dead.
Well, so I think one thing we need to figure, I think we need to, well, I guess we're not investigators necessarily, but it'd be very good to confirm whether or not that was not her first call. And so, and if it's not, then that, it's pretty, it sounds very much disgusting. If that's not the first call.
I think in the first minute, you get all you need, and everything else is a repeat after that with a couple of hey buds. And in the first minute, the first place she went to was, oh my God, I'll lose my job. Like when I first heard that, is that what you would do? Like imagine you're at a beach and somebody's drowning. Is that the first thing you're going to say if you're the lifeguard, that this is starting to happen? Is, oh, I'm going to lose my job. Or are you going to say, you're going to try to do everything you can to try to bring this person back to life, and you should be doing everything that you're trained to do? Would you really be the...
That is a very good analogy, because that's very
Right,
good.
but I'm going to play devil's advocate just for 1 second. I was
All right.
rear-ended by a teenager one time. And his first concern was, hey, are you okay? It wasn't that. It's, oh my God, my parents are going to kill me. And I was like, hey buddy, like I just got whiplash and I know it. But it's a teenager versus an adult. I don't know how much of the brain is going to be developed at that point to give consideration to somebody else, but in that moment, just like that teenager's like, oh my God, my parents are going to kill me, to, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job.
So psychologically, if someone is sort of manifesting those kinds of statements early on, does that somehow suggest some type of guilt or something, or something that we?
Yeah. So here's the difference with that analogy. That teenager that rear-ended you wasn't trained. This police officer is trained, and Dallas actually, by the way, has one of the best training programs, as told to me by some of the officers that I know.
Yeah.
So first of all, she's trained. The person who hit you wasn't. They're trained to see that there's going to be trauma, things that they're going to walk up on that's going to be horrible to see.
Right.
They're trained this way. They're taught this way. We even teach them implicit bias and how that works. Some police departments have gone through the training on that end.
Right.
Does that mean that's the end-all be-all? No. However, the fact that you have been trained, the fact that you know that you're on a job where this is sort of thing happens and happens a lot, I'm just surprised at how much the person kept saying, well, do you know the gate code? She's like, no, I don't know the gate code. You can't remember the gate code, but you can tell other details and you can give me other things. And I'm thinking, if you come into your house every day, how do you not know your gate code? So there's just some things that I feel like were prompted or put in there. But I have to say, I don't necessarily believe the first few minutes would sell me on the idea that she really cared about the person that was shot.
Well, and not only that, so in that first minute or so, when she first started talking about this, I thought it was my apartment.
Yeah.
Is it that she just realized it on the call, or she already knew that? And it sounds like
Good point.
she already knew by the time she made that call
Mm-hmm.
that she was not in her apartment.
Well, she went through so much explanation. I thought I parked on the 3rd floor. I could have swore I parked on the 3rd floor, but I'm on the 4th floor. Okay. At what point do you realize that you're in the wrong apartment? Is it when your key doesn't work? Is it when... I mean, there's so many things, whether this is a unit, whether you know your gate code or not. There are plenty of people who live in gated communities and they may have like a garage door opener or a fob.
Sure.
Mhm,
And they can
mhm.
open the gate, they don't remember the code. But at what point do you put a key in the door or you wave your fob and the door does not open? At what point do you look at the door and the number? There's just so many questions that are left unanswered, and then you have this, what I think is a very suspicious call. I think that this was a pretext to her defense. That's how it sounds.
Well, and so one thing at the very end of the audio, she sort of is talking about, I thought I put something, there, you have to listen to it again.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings us to the whole question of, how did she get in there?
Right.
What was, did she knock on the door? Did she put her key in there? Was the door cracked open? And so we've seen over the past few months people who have lived in an apartment complex and discussed how difficult it is to leave your door cracked.
Yeah.
And so her argument is that the door was cracked, and she came, not her argument, her statement, her belief, or this is what she's
One of her statements that she gave not long after this phone
yes,
call. Okay.
yes. But it still, just by listening to that audio at the very end, I can't tell if she's saying that she used her key and was somehow, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I don't understand what's going on there. I don't know if Botham came to the door, she was banging on it or whatever else, and let her in, or if the door was cracked. It seems highly unlikely the door was cracked. How did she get in there? You know?
Even if she's banging on the door, what would make you bang on your own door?
Right, that does make sense. Also, she has a dog, and anybody who owns pets knows that your dogs have hearing. They can tell by the sound of your gate that it's you coming, and they come to the door and they're waiting for you.
Yeah.
So the fact that there was no dog waiting at the front door for her when she sticks her key in and goes in normally should have said a lot as well. Also, we have, and again this came out, that Botham's mother, when coming to visit, noticed how similar all the doors were, so she gave him a doormat so she could remember which one. Ironically, this comes up. So I'm just saying, when you come up, how do you not see the doormat that's out front? Also the flowers that were out front.
So many
Well,
questions.
but I'll tell you, I've lived in apartments, and
Gotcha.
I
Oh,
have
yeah, me too.
just a couple weeks ago, somebody came to the door and tried to use their key.
Sure.
And then I, of course, went to the door, and it was another gentleman. It was a white guy, man. He's like, "Oh, sorry, man, my bad," or whatever. But he went as far as, now, granted, he's the next door over, but got out of his car, walked over, came to the door, tried to use his key, and then at some point walked away, realizing, "Oh, I messed up."
Sure.
Very similar thing happened to me.
Yeah.
I lived in a complex for many years and I switched floors. The layout is completely the same. I got off on the
Yeah.
floor I used to live on for the last couple of years. And I went all the way down there to what would be my new unit, just on a different floor. I try to open the door and I'm like, something's not right. And then I take a step back and I look, oh, I'm on the wrong floor. It happens.
It does happen.
It happens. That's not the problem here.
The problem is this. Now, here's the issue.
Okay. What's the problem?
Once you realize, or maybe not realize, you're at the right or wrong apartment and everything, when you see someone else, and what do you do? And so this, I do believe. I do believe that when she saw a figure across the room, or whoever it was, and it was a person of color, I think her bias and everything else, she went into whatever kind of mode and shot him. And I think that if he would have been if it would have been a woman or someone different, I don't think she would have shot the person. That's what I believe.
I disagree. I
Okay.
think she knew him.
Interesting.
Oh, you think? Oh, no, I don't know about that. Okay.
I think she knew him.
Okay.
Because at what point, or she was familiar with his apartment, something about it made her not turn away.
Like perhaps being a loud neighbor, and so she's
Something.
met him one time because she lives underneath him.
Right underneath them.
Okay.
There's a lot of things. He lives right above her.
Right above,
actually.
yes.
Yes.
So the noise would have traveled down. Either you walk too loud, the radio's too loud, speakers. Something about that unit to her was familiar besides it being on a different floor. Because like you said, the flowers, the doormat.
Yeah.
She had been there before, in my opinion. I feel like she knew him.
Okay.
I don't think this was just a male or a black male that came to the door. I think something else was going on that triggered. Because even if you go to the wrong apartment, you enter the wrong door,
Right.
your first reaction is not to draw a weapon, is not to defend yourself, because you are in the wrong, not the person who's in their home.
But again, I mean, she's believing that she's walking into her apartment. And I've heard a lot of that, those types of thoughts, people saying that they probably knew him, whatever.
Right.
I know there was pictures out there. They were able to conclude that that was not them together.
Right.
And so a lot of that's been dismissed. But then, of course, we don't know for sure. Of course
Sure.
you don't know.
Right.
But based on what we do know, she was in his apartment and she shot him. And based on sort of just kind of normal interaction, a lot of times where police officers interact with people and on the spot and, you know, everything going on, one likely plausible explanation is, of course, she shot him because she thought he was in there, and if it had been someone else, maybe it might have been different, but in any event, Botham is not here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and you know, I think what's damaging is what the mom said, right? Because the mom's coming to visit her son. I think it's very damaging for the mom to say, you know what, when I come to visit my son, I notice I can't even find his place because they all look alike. So therefore, I buy him things so that it's a marker.
Damaging for who?
Damaging for any person coming in trying to find somebody that's a relative that's not from this country, that doesn't even know how things work, because she's not. So she's just trying to figure out, how do I find my son's apartment when everything looks alike, which may look a lot different than where she's from and how apartments are set up over there. So she puts a marker out on purpose for this very reason, to help her, but as it turns out, this is a marker that can't be seen by somebody who lives in the building and knows that these things are set up the same on each floor.
And it goes back to training. You're
Yeah.
trained to be observant.
Absolutely
You're trained
you are.
to recognize the minutia, the
That's right.
details, the little things. So you go home and all that stuff, you're off duty, and all that training just goes out the window.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. Plus the station is right across the street, so she didn't have a long drive. She just literally got off shift, was over there. But I think what's also damaging too is when you think about the idea that what they were saying was, the mom was saying, listen, I know what my son is, what he does. That's been documented. And yet what ended up coming out was, oh, but he had this one time. There was some weed there. So there was this need to try to slander all of a sudden. And I'm thinking, why would you need to do that for someone who
Right,
actually
but also Amber has shot someone else in the in the torso as well, and so she has a history of shooting people. I mean, but you know, she's a police officer. It happens, you know.
Yeah.
And so the other person, I think she was in an altercation, and I think the suspect overcame her or whatever, took her spray or whatever, and then she ended up shooting him in the torso or whatever.
That's true.
And then unfortunately that's what happened here with.
And to your point about the training, and that's right, about the training, if you just got off a shift, and if it's true, her statement was that the door was open or cracked, your training wouldn't tell you to go in by yourself with your gun and pull your gun and shoot people. Your training would say, wait for backup, which is just across the street.
So if the door was open or cracked, was he expecting company? You know, all these things would. It's so much. There's so much that's unknown. There's so many things.
Yeah.
But just alone on the 911 call, just hearing that and listening to it, it just seems like she's trying to cover herself.
Yeah.
She's trying to aid in her defense,
For sure.
and she's setting it up early on.
For sure.
I felt like that was very cognizant. she knew exactly what to do.
She did.
Or someone told her what to do.
Yeah. So hey, y'all, we're 5 minutes left here. We're talking about Amber Guyger's 911 call, and we'll respond to your comments, and thank you for watching, and like and share. We got 5 minutes left here. We're going to kind of try to maybe put a bow on this if we can. So, again, when I looked at it and I closed my eyes and listened to it, what I got from it was somebody who it was an accident from what is on the audio. That's what I got from it. Also, they were very concerned about themselves. I didn't hear someone performing CPR like that. The person Amber, it didn't sound like it. But all we have is audio. We don't know what was going on and everything. And I came away with it that it sounded a little bit of kind of coached. Because it is over and over and over again. Even the 911 operator was like, okay, we got it, we understand that. Mm-hmm. And so that's where it was a little over the top in that manner. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, what's so sad too is that you can hear Botham. And that really is disturbing to me, because also here's somebody trying to grasp for their life, and it didn't sound like someone was necessarily helping them in many ways throughout the call. But opening your eyes up and now looking at the whole big picture and everything, this is a very, very, it's a sad situation, because we have good police officers.
We do.
We do.
And they do a fabulous job. Mm-hmm. It looks like Amber was sort of treated initially with kind of real light gloves and delicately and everything. If it would not have been a police officer, I think that this would have moved a lot faster, possibly. I don't know. I don't know if they'd have been arrested on the spot or not, or whatever. I don't know. It's an accident, the way it's so far being alleged. Mm-hmm. But it didn't play out well in the first 4 or 5 days, for sure.
I agree with you, and I have a question as well that I don't know if it'll ever get answered. So, for me to believe that this wasn't on some level coached or somehow prefabricated in a sense, why would you turn yourself in a completely different precinct when your precinct, if you've done nothing wrong, it's totally innocent, it's right across the street? I'm still trying to figure out what plays into that.
I do think someone advised her to do that.
Yeah.
And, with the couple minutes that we have left, I'd like our viewers to look at this article that came out yesterday, where in Minnesota, a officer was convicted. His name of murder, Muhammad Noor. He was a police officer who ended up shooting in the line of duty a woman who called the police to report an alleged rape that was happening in her neighborhood, and somehow she ended up murdered. He was convicted of murder, and this woman was a dual citizen of Australia and the United States. So I just kind of want to plug that into people's ears. The roles are being reversed. You have someone whose name is Muhammad Noor, of darker skin, darker complexion. I don't know his ethnic background or anything. And then you have a white woman. I don't know what, if any, race had to play with that, but it is the complete opposite of the situation we have here, where we had a white officer and a black victim. So if you have a chance, if you have time, go read the article, and I'd be interested to know the differences, to compare and contrast that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and we definitely want to take a look at that and compare the facts, or what are presumed to be the facts and everything. Hey, really enjoyed this show. It was a touchy subject, but I thought it made a lot of sense to put it out there and get PJ's reaction to it right on the spot. And Ashlei, your reaction is great. Ashlei, how can people find out more about you?
Well, you can always look me up at gradneypc.com, or you can call me 214-699-4068. Yeah, I'm here.
PJ?
You can find me on PJ Dunn TV. Go to YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe also to Steve Bolden's channel as well. You can find me on Facebook and on Twitter, and also on Instagram under the same name, PJ Dunn.
And thank you, PJ. And then, yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Bode Creations. We're almost at 30,000 views. We only need about 400 more. And so I really encourage y'all to go over there. Also on Facebook where you see me here. And we really want to thank everybody for joining. We'll release our various YouTube videos and enjoy the rest of your day. Be great.
That's right. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.